Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. This is April again with the Dash Travel Collective, where I get to chat with amazing travelers, tour guides, people I've met, just amazing people that inspire me to continue exploring the world. So I'm excited to finally get to talk to Peter, who I met last summer when I went to my destinations of Budapest and Prague, which I'd so been looking forward to, and I need to go back. So welcome, Peter.
Hello.
So, the travel bug, you've been doing this for years.
Yep.
Do you think it started with, I don't know, did your family kind of help shape that or take us
Well,
back?
sort of. I have family that were tour guides. My mother was a tour guide. She worked for one of the better known companies around. Not that that was the main driver in it. I was working for a company called Arthur Anderson on the accountancy and consulting side and just hated it. So I ended up teaching in university. And in the summers, I started guiding, and then sort of that's how I got into it. The travel bug has been with our family since the day we were born, basically. We've always traveled.
Ah, that's
In that
fabulous.
sense, I'm just seeing the world in between and getting paid for it, one way or the other.
So, what were some of the first places you ventured to?
But I mean, I'm half German and half Irish. I was already, I think my mother told me I was on an airplane when I was 6 months old, flying backwards and forwards between Germany and Ireland. Then it was France, school trips into England and Wales. I mean, slowly, I mean, I started covering most of Europe. Ireland's one of the, I don't know if you've been to Ireland, I'm sure you have. Um, it's one of those places that's pretty, it's a very beautiful country, but one of the reasons it's so green is that it rains a lot. And in
Right.
particular in the winter, it's gray and often very miserable. So my family sort of took it on themselves to get out of the country once a year to see some sunshine somewhere. And unlike some of my friends who basically went to the same beach every year, we decided that we basically went to different places every year. So we started to see most of Europe that way,
Oh, wow.
at
Well,
least the
and
warmer parts of it.
yeah, in Europe, that's the thing. It's kind of like for us in the United States, it's kind of like just venturing to the next state because the countries are
Well, yeah, exactly. It's
small.
like they taking a trip from Pennsylvania to, I don't know, Chicago, you know?
And then you've got the trains. I mean, I think it's just easier to kind of hop over the borders a little bit once you're in Europe.
I think so. I mean, okay, American flights and plane travel is reasonably good, but I mean, when it comes down to the trains and that kind of stuff in Europe, I use them all the time for getting to and from work. I mean, if a flight is going to take me more than 3 hours, I'll consider taking the flight. But if I can take a train for anything under 5 hours, I'll take the train because let's face it, you sit around the airport for 2 hours before the flight goes. Even then, you got an hour or two at the flight, and then another hour looking for the luggage. Whereas when you get on a train, you can just go from the city center to another city center. That's the other thing. You end up at some airport an hour away from town and have to figure out how to get into town then. So.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, what were some of your most memorable journeys over the last? Because you've been doing it professionally now for a while.
But this is, yeah, I mean, I professionally since the late 90s, 97, I think. I started for one of the bigger companies. I mean, we had to do other work before that, but basically 97 for one of them better known tour companies. And so I've been at it since then, with whatever that is, 25 years or something now, 24 years, whatever. Um, yeah, I mean, memorable tours. I mean, I have to say it's sort of hard. It really is. I mean, the tours I do for work here in Central Europe, because I specialize in Central and Eastern Europe. Um, I have my favorites. That has more to do with comfort and knowing the area, knowing it really well, and that kind of stuff, rather than the things you see and do. Let's face it, once you've done it 100 times,
Yeah.
even the Eiffel Tower is not really that impressive. I love it. I love taking people there. I love the reaction from people when they see all these things new, but you're not going there to see them. For me, the tours that interest me are actually the ones I haven't done yet.
Right.
Like right now, I'm working on a tour to go to. I'm taking a group for a different company to Japan. I won't be the guide. I'll be just the escort, more or less there to just in case there's trouble, which I can't imagine is going to happen in Japan. They're way too organized for that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that and seeing how that will be. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's a real skill to get on a busload of people, 40 to 50, some of those larger groups, and
Yeah,
manage everybody and their personalities and keep them happy and satisfied.
it's true. But yeah, I mean, okay, I'm good at that. I can take my 40 people. What I will say is, I mean, a lot of people sort of forget that by the time they've gotten on the bus, a lot of people already have quite a lot in common. They've already made choices about where they want to be, what areas they're interested in, the type of travel they're taking. Um, even the time of year that they're going, because some people go, at times when there's no children or when it's not hot or whatever. All those choices are more or less being made by all 40 people to some degree or other, unless it's Joe, the husband, who doesn't listen,
Right.
just says, tell me where we're going. And but I mean, if in, all the other people, if you had put any thought into it whatsoever, you probably find that the people on the bus have something in common with you, even if they come from a totally different part of the world. So, as that's the case, it makes it easier to get people going in the same direction as well.
Right. Have there been some instances where you've had some challenging customers as such?
Yeah, but in fairness, people, how do I put it? Think that's the nightmare scenario. I mean, all honesty, they don't. It's rare.
Oh, good.
Once every couple of years, you have a customer or a client who doesn't get it. Often that is exactly Joe because he has had no input. I had one gentleman, he was a lovely guy, ex-military, just retired, went on a vacation with his wife. I suspect because his wife basically told him we're going on vacation. And he could not put up with the regiment of getting up early in the morning, doing all of these. He said, I've been done this all my life, Peter. I didn't want to do this on holiday. I'm going, well, then I can't help you. You booked a tour.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I can't
I can
change
do
that.
everything. I can do everything to make your life easier, but I can't change the fact that we have a timetable, you know. And
Right.
he took it with good grace, but I mean, he wasn't happy and it was obvious. I mean, one way or the other.
Oh,
Uh, Other people find it difficult to sort of stick to the rules too well, but it's very rare. I have to say, it's not. People who get on a tour really sort of usually know what they're doing, you know.
yeah.
Um,
So with the Japan tour, are you part of the process of like choosing the places to go, or is that kind of
well,
handled by someone else then?
I mean, there's different things. I mean, like I've helped. Some companies have hired me to design tours. One of the tours that I worked on was lately, or a couple of years ago now, was Montecatini. It was a one-stop because it's becoming more popular to do this one-stop shop. You stay in a hotel for a week and do day
Oh,
trips.
oh,
Uh,
interesting.
Different company call them different things. They like focus on Tuscany, for instance. So they stay in Tuscany and just do that because people hate unpacking and
Oh,
packing. And they have this idea that staying in the one room with their luggage unpacked once is a much better thing than not. In some ways, it's being encouraged by the cruise lines because they're sort of
yes.
river cruises in particular are sort of encouraging people to think, well, you unpack once and that's it. They don't tell everybody that, well, you won't see everything because you can't see everything from a river, and that kind of stuff. So, if you want to do a tour of Switzerland, probably one of the most beautiful tours in the world, you need to get on a bus. There's no
Yeah,
river that goes through the Alps.
right.
There's one that runs more or less beside it, but that's about it. So if you want to get up to Zermatt, you got to either get in a train or get in a bus. Now we're doing train tours, just
Oh,
railway journeys, you know.
interesting.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great ideas out there. We'll see how it works. We're just literally starting with the rail tours. There are problems with that because you got the logistics of the luggage and that kind of stuff. You get everybody on a train, and even then, I can just see somebody wandering off and going for a cup of coffee, missing a train. It'll be an
Yes.
interesting,
Right.
an interesting thing. But we're starting with that. We're doing different variations of that kind of thing.
So,
Yeah.
how much background do you as a guide, because you had so much information to share with our group, is that pretty typical of depending on what company you're working for, or is that kind of the individual? Like you have a
I think that's
definite,
individual. I mean, it's difficult at times to sort of compare. I have a boss for one of the companies I work for, and he asks me often because I go on trips. I take groups for other companies on trips for the same company. And so I'm asked, how was the tour guide? And I feel that that's a very unfair question most of the time.
Yeah.
Because and I literally said to him, listen, I will happily tell you when a tour guide is doing something really bad, like stupid, like something
Yeah.
they shouldn't be doing. But in a general sense, if the people on a tour guide's coach leave the coach happy,
Right.
whether or not he does it the same way as I do is a different story. I stand on the bus and I talk till people are dead, you know, and if they like that, they like that. And I go through the histories and I go through the stories and my personal tales of whatever experiences I have along the way, tell some funny tales along the way and that kind of stuff. But the next guy won't do that. They haven't got that personality. Also, I'm a natural born English speaker, which is a huge advantage when you're talking about a lot of the guides in Eastern and Central Europe where I work are German,
Oh,
Hungarian, Eastern, some kind of Eastern Romanian, I don't know, any kind of other language base. So they might speak excellent English, but it's not the same
right.
as somebody who grew up speaking English can make a joke or can turn a phrase, not
Yeah.
quite the way. But that doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means they're different.
Yeah. So you also do a lot of travel then on your own as well, in between leading
Yep.
the trips. So what have
Uh,
been would have been some of
well, I
those
mean, like just
journeys?
now, I was in Morocco
Yes.
and spent a week going along Morocco and just experiencing Casablanca and Marrakesh and Fez and that kind of stuff. Absolutely loved it. I mean, I don't know if you saw the pictures on
Yes.
Facebook. I put up a lot of pictures as I'm going through. Um, it's an experience. I like to see the world in that sense. I try to get one or two new countries in every year if I can afford it. I mean, that's the other thing. People sort of think I get the trips for free. I no, I when I'm doing my private stuff, I gotta pay for it just
Yeah.
like everybody else. I might get a discount once in a while, but
Right.
basically I'm paying for it myself. So, I try to do a bigger trip every couple of years, but um, and then throw in a couple of smaller trips in between.
So when you went to Morocco, was that with another tour group or you went
I
solo?
went on a tour. I like tours. I mean, I know
Okay.
that for a lot of people who don't have the tour experience. I mean, certainly I'm single. I'm traveling most of the time on my own. So I find a group is a great way to have people to have company with, have a cup of coffee or a
Yeah.
drink in the evening or share a meal in the evening and that kind of stuff, rather than just being alone in Marrakesh on my own. If I want to be alone with the tours that I choose, most of them have some half. So there's the program part, which is usually, let's say, half the day, and then the other half of the day, you're more or less free to do whatever you like. Um, and so I can balance my own free time doing the things I want to, and at the same time spend some time with other people and have a bit of fun, one way or the
Yeah.
other. So fine tours. Also, tours are, from a cost point of view. I mean, let's face it, you do not see, if you wanted to do just a lot of these tours, like that tour you met me on, if
Yes.
you did a tour, just book the hotels and try to get a car, you'd probably spend more doing that than you did for the whole tour with all the meals and all the guides and all the included features, etc. So I actually find them a pretty good value for money as well. You see a lot, you can skip a lot of the lines. You don't sit there going, you go to I don't know, you go to Rome, you want to get into the Vatican, it's already arranged. They
Right.
have the time, you walk in. If you're on your own and you're getting in a line, you could be there all day waiting for a ticket, depending
Right.
on you
Yeah,
know.
it was a very good value. Like you said, we stayed in some amazing hotels and you get really good service. I think because you're part of a company, they see you, they don't want you to have poor service at the hotel either. I mean, and they're well
No, no, they do their
located.
best. Yeah, they're there. Yeah, I mean, the company that you travel, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention the
Yeah,
name or
you
not.
can mention it.
Oh, well, that was Globus. I mean, they make a big effort to get central hotels, good locations. You can walk out the door and go and see things. You were busy taking pictures all the time. So in that sense, you could walk out the door and do that.
Yes.
Whereas other companies, they save on the hotels and they bring you out of town. So I'm quite happy with Globus. They do an excellent job there. And what they have included is apropos, like it fits. And there's enough free time, and that's the thing. Like that tour you were on, there's always going to be at least a full afternoon where you can do your own thing. There might be an optional dinner or something like that, but you don't have to go on that if you don't want to. That's why it's optional.
Right.
You can, in theory, just do the city tour in the morning and disappear for the whole day. and lots of people did that. Well, there's others like the whole organized thing, and then they'll go and join some of the excursions in the afternoons. That works. Yeah.
And some of the excursions were really amazing. I mean, there was like a lunch riverboat cruise. I think it was down
Oh,
the,
I love that. Yeah,
yeah. So, and again, if you
Danube.
tried, yeah, if you tried to book that on your own, I'm sure it'd be at least as much. And then,
Well, yeah, I mean, price wise, it's like usually, I won't say on everything because some of them are a little vague or a little different, but usually if it's something like, I don't know, going to Schönbrunn, you can go to Schönbrunn, you can buy your ticket yourself, you can take the underground out there, get your ticket, get your audio guide and wander around, and you'll pay maybe $3 or $4 less than if you were doing an organized tour. But the organized tour brings you there in a coach. He
yeah.
brings you in the door at an appointment time. You have a guide, a real person bringing you through and giving you the guided tour. So I don't, I think it's win-win. Of course, don't kid yourselves. They're making money out of this,
Oh,
but they're
yeah.
making money out of the volume. And you personally probably pay the same if you were doing it on your own, but you get a better service or better deal out of the whole thing. That
Yeah.
cruise on the Danube we were talking about, let's face it, we have the boat to ourselves. It's just a private group
Right.
with a lunch cruise, and then you can take as many pictures as you want running around up on the deck. And there's a couple of drinks included, and the price is not exorbitant.
Yeah, exactly.
So it
So,
works out quite well for people.
in all of your travels over the past years, are there places that you kind of consider are hidden gems that people may not really think about?
Ooh, well, I mean, I think most people think about all of them. I mean, but I mean, hidden gems.
I think
I
it's
loved
gotten,
India.
you
I
love where?
absolutely loved India.
Oh, India.
Um, I took a group to India there years ago and went looking for Bengal tigers in Ranthambore National Park. That for me was amazing. But then again, in the States, I was down doing presentations in Key West,
Mm-hmm.
and I took a more or less day trip. It was a boat that went out to the dried Tortugas, mainly
Yes.
because I was interested in the fort where they held the assassins from Lincoln, I think it was. Um, But what I didn't realize at the time was that there's 98% of the national park is underwater. It's a snorkeling paradise and it's absolutely gorgeous. So if you ever get down there and you have the ability to swim, go. Um, there's just so much. I just love Switzerland. I love standing on any mountain in Switzerland, looking down at the thing, I mean, at the scenery. On a good day, I mean, let's face it, on a gray, rainy day, not so much. Norway's stunning. Iceland is amazing. It's an eye opener, Iceland, in some ways.
Yeah, I've never
Uh,
been to Iceland yet, so
Iceland's very beautiful. It's hard with the groups when I take them to Iceland because many of them are going there for the Northern Lights.
right.
Although now in the States after this year, I don't think anybody wants to see a Northern Light again.
Right. Yeah, there's been
So
pretty
many pictures
busy.
going.
Yeah, there's been
Yeah,
so many pictures. Even
yeah,
the
exactly,
the
exactly.
people in Oklahoma that were part of the group this past year, they were taking pictures with their iPhone of the
Yeah, I
Northern
know.
Lights. And I'm
I
like,
was
"Oh
like,
my
well,
gosh."
that'll kill Iceland for the next year or two.
Right.
Um, But yeah, even you see, I do think the summer tour in Iceland would be a beautiful thing. That the waterfalls are amazing, the geysers, all that kind of stuff. It is really quite a pretty place, and it's also where the two continents meet, and so you can reach out one hand on America, one hand on Europe, and that kind of thing. Um, no, it's quite. That's it's just one of those things. Other places, I don't know. For me, Africa and the Serengeti, I take lots of groups down to Africa and do safaris or have done safaris for different companies. Helped design one in South Africa a long
Oh,
time ago.
wow.
Did a lot of really weird stuff down there, trying to figure out whether it would fit into a tour. Um, some of it we included, other things we didn't. But I mean, I love Africa. I love for me, the Serengeti is one of the favorite ones, but there's others. The Ngorongoro Crater, there's others that are just that blow your mind. If you like taking pictures and animals and that kind of stuff, which is right up my alley, then you
Yeah,
can't really go wrong.
I've never been there. I don't know why. It's one of those places I think that I still have a little hesitancy. We have this little bit
Well, I
of,
mean, that's one of those perfect examples of where a tour will really be the good choice. I mean, get a decent tour company, do a tour. If you're interested in the animals, then Serengeti, Kenya and Tanzania, for instance, safe, well organized. and you can do a great tour of Africa. They usually do really nice programs. Um, I mean, if it's a first time to Africa and you want to get a little bit, and you're not sure if the animals is going to be too much, 2 weeks of
Right.
animals or 10
Yeah.
days of animals is too much. Well, my advice is then go to South Africa. South Africa is a good starting point because it's a little bit of, for lack of a better word, civilization.
Okay.
So you get Cape Town, you get all the history of Cape Town and the Tabletop Mountain and Nelson Mandela and the Robben Island, all that kind of stuff is there. So a little bit of culture and history. The first settlement through the whites, when the Zulus came down and met them, the transnatal sort of stuff. You get all of that. But at the same time, then you can also, most of the tours will then include a couple of days at one of the national parks, usually the Kruger, or if it's a tour, as an organized tour, they often have a park right next to the Kruger, which gives them more area to look for animals. They're all protected areas, and you can do a bit of safari. You can see the big five and get a taste of safari without being
Yeah,
locked
yeah.
into 10 days of it, if you know what I mean. But most people I know, because I've taken lots of groups to South Africa, once they've done that bit, and once they've gone then at the end, because most of the tours they do have to have Victoria Falls at the end.
Right.
Yeah, once they've done all of that, then the next thing I see is that they're booking a tour to go and see the Great Migration in Kenya, Tanzania, something like that, because they just fall in love with the animals. Most people are just blown away with the whole safari part of it,
Yeah,
looking for the
it
animals,
it,
really, and
it is
taking the
yeah, it is pretty amazing to think that you can see some of these giraffes and zebras
yeah,
just out there, like
wandering in their natural habitat.
right. Yeah.
Then the lions, I mean, I don't know if you look through my Facebook, go back about, I don't know, 6 months, you'll see a whole load of different lion cubs. There's a family of lions down there that I've been more, not well, not intentionally, but by accident, because I've taken one tour after another. I knew their grandparents, I
Oh
knew
my
the
goodness.
parents, and now I've just seen a whole passel of little lions,
Oh.
cubs running around with the new family. That they're all hunting the same area, more or less the same pride of lions. So it's quite funny to go back and sort of say I mean my last guide was a little thrown when I turned around and said, go down there and turn left and go over the river and up the hill. We can take some good pictures from there. And he's like, how do you know?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly
I've
right.
literally, I don't want to know, I don't want to say I'm a guide for the Serengeti. I'm not, but I've been there that often that I know roughly where everything is. So it's one of those things that I love doing time and time again.
Well, it's like
Although,
the cities, just your knowledge of all the different cities in Europe. It just kind of comes
yeah,
back to you of like, oh yeah, go that way and take a left and there's a
yeah, but
pub.
it's been my life. I mean, literally, I go to Budapest in a normal season. I go to Budapest at least 8 or 9 times a year. You
Really?
know, well, it depends on there's. I will for the first time I worked for Globus. I think they basically gave me the same tour 11 times in a row
Oh,
before they
11
changed me into.
times.
It was about learning how to do their system, their thingamajig, or whatever else. But the side effect is you know it backwards. So much so that the year afterwards, I got the same tour. I didn't read the instructions, the itinerary, because I knew it, and of course, flatly ran into the wrong hotel on the first day.
Oh,
So I was like, I better read this now.
yeah, exactly. I better make sure I take us to the right
Better
hotel.
read this beforehand, just the way it goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about the Christmas tours because you've done a bunch of Christmas tours too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like people ask me about the Christmas tour. It's not really like for a lot of people, that's a special trip. It's an extra trip. It's not like their vacation. They're
Okay.
going to Europe to see the Christmas markets. There are beautiful Christmas markets all over Germany, Belgium, parts of France. They are more or less the traditional ones, the Rotenburgs, the Munichs, the Cologne. They're, more or less, or Strasbourg and that kind of stuff. Dresden is where it all started with the Christkindlmarkt in
Oh.
1471 or something like that. So they've been doing this a while, selling tchotchkes, Christmas ornaments to people who visit. But this sort of was picked up then by a lot of Eastern European countries. Vienna has a huge selection, and then a lot of Eastern European towns who more or less, let's face it, in the Czech Republic, religion is not the biggest thing. So they don't really have the same tradition, but they have now got a beautiful Christmas market. And as a result, people want to go and see these towns, see the Christmas markets. It's a special time of year. It's cold. The food is a bit different. It's nice to be wandering around the market with a glass of mulled wine in your hand, or trying some of the like the roast chestnuts and that kind of stuff. Um, but yes, yeah, most people come over for a week. They do a couple of cities, um, try the different foods, try the thing, do a little bit of shopping along the way. And most of these companies, the Christmas trips are a little less expensive because it's off season usually, unless you're
Oh,
going right into the Christmas period.
right.
If you go the beginning of December, let's say, it's usually not so expensive to go to these places and to see them. And let's face it, I mean, Cologne Cathedral is still Cologne Cathedral, even if it's in the winter.
Right.
You know, the Roman Museum is still going to be the Roman Museum, even if it's in the winter. So you can do the cultural side and the Christmas side to it and have a bit of fun. But just be prepared for the cold weather. The amount of people who arrive and sort of go, "Oh, it's cold," and going, it's a Christmas market,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You know they have winter here, right?
Yeah, it's not Florida.
Right. But for me, I think that's part of the appeal of maybe seeing a city, in a different kind of personality because you're
Yeah, exactly.
out, you got the lights, the city takes on a different atmosphere. It might not, maybe not be as crowded as say when you go there in the summer and it's so busy.
No, it's less crowded. It's these there's been a move in the last couple of years to do these off-season sort of tours, and that does mean less crowded, does mean less expensive, does also mean in some cases less daylight.
Yes.
You know, if you do it, I don't know, a winter tour of Ireland, God help you, you'll see 3 hours of daylight, or if you go to Norway, you'll see 5 minutes of daylight.
Yeah.
But people do them and they have a different experience and a different life of this thing, and they see the same things. But it is different in the winter, one way or the other.
So what places are left on your list of like
On my
places?
bucket list,
Yeah.
uh, most of South America is still pretty much vague. I've done a lot of Central America, um, so I'm working my way down. My problem is always I usually have my free time in the winter, in the European winter.
Right.
That's where I have the most time, which means that like going to, I don't know, Washington State would mean I'm in a pile of snow, you
Right.
know. So they're at the bottom of the list. I mean, they're on top of the list for me getting my states together, but at the same time, I think that'll be retirement before I get up there,
Yeah.
one way or the other. South America, a lot of bits and pieces of Asia. I just took a group to Vietnam and Cambodia a year or two ago. That
Oh,
was really fascinating. Um,
that
I
sounds
lovely.
amazing.
Oh, the people were amazing. The people, the places, the things you see are amazing. I mean, although it is a communist country, I mean, let's face it, Vietnam is a communist country, and you do know this from time to time.
Yeah.
It was quite interesting being the tallest man in the country.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Funniest
Everybody,
was when I
yeah.
went to Mao. You have to go up, of course, you get to Ho Chi Minh City, and you have to go to Mao's tomb. So I'm like the whole town. I mean, I think the whole city went out to see the big tall white guy standing around
Uh-oh.
there. I have so many pictures of whole school groups from some Vietnamese village who hadn't seen anybody standing there taking pictures with me,
Right.
one way or the other. I had a load of fun. I mean, it really was a great time. And I can only recommend it, but I mean, it was a bit different.
Can I ask which was that with Globus or a different company that you did
That
that?
one was with Globus. I mean, there are other companies, but I have problems. They don't like me mentioning them, or the other way around. They don't like me mentioning the competition. So I
Right.
do travel with many different groups. I look at the itineraries and the price ultimately. But in that case, it just happened to be a Globus tour, yeah.
Oh, that's
And
interesting. Yeah, because I wasn't even aware that Globus covered so many
Globus does
places.
the whole world. I mean, you can argue about it sometimes. Of course, they use different agents in different locations, but you can pretty much get a tour anywhere. I was
Wow.
always tempted. The year that was the anniversary of the national parks in the United States, they put a tour
Yeah.
together that went to every national park. And they had it
Oh,
on their website. And I was so tempted just to book it to see what would happen because I couldn't believe that anybody's going to do it looked like
yes.
a 150-day tour.
Oh, it
I,
would
wa- I
have to be, I would think, to
yeah,
cover every.
I so wanted to put a deposit down just to see what the company would do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, wait, you're taking off that much time? What are you doing, Peter?
Well, not just the taking off that much time. I cannot believe that anybody would book a 150-day
I
tour.
know.
So I would like to see what they would do. I'd be the only guy doing the 150-day tour. Me and three other friends, and that'd be it.
Right. Yeah.
Would have been really funny, but I mean, I have to make money for my living one way or the other.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So, as
Uh,
someone that's always traveling and packing, have you learned some like packing tips and hacks to kind of make it easier?
eh, I was going to ask these questions. I think I've got the same problems as everybody else. I do. I mean, okay. Nowadays, because we all have our gadgets with us the whole time, the one thing I do now that I didn't do before, is I always have a power strip in my suitcase so that I can just use one adapter, put it in the wall, and then I can plug in all my devices into the power strip, and that's the end of it. So that is one of the things that I've been doing lately. I mean, I'm a big fan of those packing cubes and all of that kind of stuff, more or less just to keep things organized. I do tend to pack at this stage the same set of clothes pretty much day in day. I mean, I basically take them out, wash them, and put them back in the suitcase for work. So I mean, there's a minimum. I don't know, for a regular trip, I'll have like 5 pairs of socks and whatever
Right.
else, and that'll just always be in the suitcase, period. Um,
I think that is a good tip, though. I think mentally, it's like you see some people and they show up with so much. They think they're going to wear like the
yeah,
outfit in the morning and then they're going to dress up for dinner and then they're going to
yeah.
change it up the next day. And it's like just the lugging all that stuff around. I just don't want to. I don't care if
Yeah, obviously,
everyone
it
on
depends a
the.
little on what you're doing. If you're going on a high class
Yeah,
cruise, something with a gala dinner or something, you might want to take something with you. But if you're going on the average tour, I'm not saying you shouldn't have something nice to wear some evening from time to time,
right,
preferably something light and easy to pack. But um, but in general, people are running around in, I don't know, jeans and jackets and a sweatshirt, that sort of thing. I base me and my baseball cap, basically. Um, and then it's just variations on a theme. With me, it's always black. I have a lot of black just in case. It's easy to wash, even in foreign countries. You can
oh
throw it
yeah.
in a washing machine and it comes out black, funnily enough. Um, but yeah, I mean, packing tips, I don't know. Can't think of anything. The power strip would be my favorite one lately.
The power strip is really a good idea because a lot of places that you stay to, and you're right, we all are traveling now with a phone and then you've got a camera and maybe your laptop. I mean,
Yeah,
and if you're hunting around a room, if you can just find one plug-in, just put
yeah, exactly.
everything.
A lot of the hotels nowadays, I mean, okay, some of the 4 and 5 star hotels, they have lots and lots of sockets. So some of them even have USB outlets or whatever else. Although now that everything's going to USB-C, I'm wondering if that's going to be a problem later. But a lot of the sort of mid-range hotels, I'd say, might only have 1 or 2 power outlets, period. So it's just easier to have a strip with you. And then you also only need one adapter rather than having one for each of your devices.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. So talk about a little bit if people are, some tips for travelers if they're new to taking a group tour, things that they should ask themselves to help them kind of choose if a group tour is right for them or a coach tour or I think it's
Yeah, I
important.
mean, the most important, let's face it, on a tour, pretty much everything is organized for you. And the better tour, so I mean, ask yourself how much free time you want. Most companies, there's a balance. Like I like when I work with Globus, they do half the day is basically free time, the other half a day is organized activities. And we can fill the other free time with excursions if you want to. Often they're things that people want to do anyway. So
Right.
that's it. You can keep busy and you can choose not to be busy. Ask yourself, it depends a little on your also physical ability. There's reasonably, in most of the European cities, I won't say a lot of walking for most American travelers. It may be more walking than they're used to, let's put it like that. Um, but there are also ways around that. So if you have a disability or there's some kind of, you can work around that. Talk to your travel agent. They can tell you. Like, I have a gentleman lately with a wheelchair on the bus.
Oh.
And he just, well, I mean, he did the whole of the Germany tour, but he knew full well that there was no way his wheelchair was going to go into Neuschwanstein castle. You
Right.
know, just isn't, but he
Right.
knew he came, he wasn't expecting that. Or should I say he was expecting that, so we made arrangements for him to stay below and take pictures and have a cup of
Oh,
coffee while
nice.
we went up. And with that mindset, it's very easy, even if you have limitations, to enjoy the tour. You can see 98% of the whole thing, enjoy the thing, and live with the fact that there's a little bit. What I hate is like my mother. I love my mother to bits, but she sees the disability as a reason not to travel.
Oh,
Whereas, you can just basically turn it on its head and sort of say, okay, so there's bits you can skip
right.
and do it, but you can do 98% of the other things. So go ahead. So yeah, physical ability a little bit. Um, Also, what you're comfortable with in the sense of language. I mean, for most people, it's their first time going. My recommendation is always Ireland. Maybe that's because I'm Irish, but it's a great way. It's not a long flight. You get there, you speak the language, even though we speak with a very strange accent, and you might need a little translation from time to time. The food is more or less similar to home, so in that sense, for your first international experience, going to Ireland is a great thing, and people like it. The people have a sense of humor and whatever else. And if you like that, then you might want to go further. I mean, Italy is a famous first destination in that sense. And a tour is a great way to see it because going on your own is a night. I won't say a nightmare, but it's a lot of work, and a lot of preparation, whereas the tours are all perfectly planned and organized, and they're chaotic as well because let's face it, we're stuck with timetables, we're stuck with traffic, we're stuck with things. We pretty much we deliver what we promise. But yeah, I mean, that's more or less it. Whether you're physically able, whether you can live with a timetable,
That's true.
um, that kind of stuff you should ask yourself. What I would say is make sure that the other person in the relationship is included in the decision, mainly because he can be the Joe that got told. I had a gentleman I picked up in Vienna years ago. I was sitting in Vienna, or should I say, the way in those days we did the pickups at the airports ourselves. The
Oh,
people came in, we had a big sign that says the
yes.
company on it, and the people came over to us, and then we put them on a coach to the hotel. It must have been towards the end of the year because at the beginning of the year, we were standing there with the sign going, "We're here, we're here, we're here, we're here." Half an hour before anybody, an
Oh,
hour before
yeah.
we're eager to see people. I know that this must have been the end of the year because it was like you don't want to see people. So you're hiding the sign. I was hiding the sign right to the last minute, you know. And then I was walking over to where I saw a whole group of my future travelers.
Right.
Um, and I heard him saying to his wife, I thought you said Australia. And they were in Austria.
Oh, no.
I mean, he had flown for 6 or 8 hours or whatever time it was, looking at the sign saying Vienna, Austria in front of him. And he had landed there and he honestly thought he was going to Australia.
Oh,
Um,
no.
he had no, I mean, no, he's a lovely guy, but he took no interest. His
Right.
wife told him when they were going on holiday and da, da, da. And those are the ones that, I mean, okay, if they accept that, that's fine. He had a great time, that's that. But for some people, it's like they take no interest in the vacation. Then they're suddenly on this organized tour and this regimen and whatever else, and they don't like it. But that's mainly
Yeah.
because they take any interest in what they were booking. They could have said that long before they ever arrived on the bus, you know? So include both sides on that one, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, and I think for travelers too, like read, your whoever you booked it through, they give you the itinerary, look it over, like,
Yeah.
take some responsibility and see what's on there, and if you have questions to
Yeah,
ask.
most of them have, I mean, nowadays it's a lot of online stuff, which I do find a little annoying. I was a big fan of in the old days they give you a little booklet that you could read through.
Yes.
If only so that these people could read the booklet on the way over on the plane. They had something to read, they had an idea. So by the time they got off, even then, they had a better idea what was going to happen next. Now with this online stuff, I don't know how many people even download the booklets. And then if they have, how many of them even get around to reading or do read it. So I have my question marks over that. So one way or the other. I more or less on the first day on my briefing and the cover the highlights, the salient points of the booklet, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. you know. And then I scare the living daylights out of them by telling them I will leave them behind if they miss the bus,
Right.
something like that.
Right. And a lot of people too, because I think you're right. I kind of agree. I miss the days of, something physical, like a packet being sent to you, because
Yeah, exactly.
you'd probably tuck it in your, you have that 6 hour, 8 hour flight getting to Europe or most destinations from the United States. And you'd have that time hopefully to maybe take it out and read
Yeah.
over it.
I do the same though. I mean, some of these trips that I do, I booked them 2 years ago because I'm planning my thing. Well, I don't know. I know what, like literally down to the months when I'll be working, when I won't be working, but I can't really. So I have to plan, especially if there's a company that's asking me to take a group to somewhere that I don't know very well, and I have to do a bit of homework on. So I'm usually planning this years in advance in some cases, my personal trips in particular. The side effect being that, like I'm going to Japan or whatever now in 2 weeks' time. If it was a personal trip, somebody asks me where I'm going, well, Tokyo. And then it's like I'd have to go and look at my book or look at my itinerary because I
Right.
booked it 2 years ago, you
Oh my
know.
goodness. Right. Yeah.
I know I'm going on a good trip. I know I'm going to have a great time, but I got to read my little booklet before I get going because I won't have the faintest for the first 5 minutes, as it were.
And I think people are in many regards like booking ahead. You almost have to, because some of the trips they do fill up too. If there's
Oh yeah,
a
certainly
particular,
the more exotic ones are definitely hard to. I mean, the Galapagos, for instance, is one of those ones, or the Antarctica trips. I mean, apart from the fact that they cost a fortune, I mean, you sort of have to plan ahead and make sure you have the right kind of boat and whatever else. I mean, the amount of people who go to Antarctica on a big cruise ship and may not even ever set foot on Antarctica as that kind of stuff. So you need to do the homework on that stuff, you
right,
know.
definitely.
But for me, it's not really about anything else other than I need to plan my time. I need to, like, I had to tell the companies that I work for when I'm available for the whole year now, maybe 6 months ago.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, because they booked me full. I mean, I'm literally more or less full for the end of the till the end of the year, except for the gaps that I put in. Now, lately, putting in larger gaps because of my mother's health and age and whatever else. I'm spending a bit more time at home. But yeah, they booked me up fast. I don't know why, because I'm awful. But the rest, the rest of the time, I guess they're stuck for people.
No, no. Well, I think that you brought up a good point too. Like, I think if you're joining a group tour, we have seen even in the middle of summer, the airline, has a computer meltdown. Get yourself to that starting point. Maybe build in a day or extra day. Like the trip I was on, I think we started in Munich. It was nice to get there a couple days ahead of time, like adjust to the
Yeah,
time difference, explore the city, add that in so you didn't have that panic of like what's going
yeah.
to
In a perfect
happen.
world, at least have a day to rest up beforehand. I like that. Even with the Morocco trip, it did exactly the same thing. Where it started in Casablanca, I flew in a day early. I
Okay.
wanted to see Rick's Cafe and do all that stuff down there and take pictures and wander around. And I wasn't 100% sure what I could do. But I wandered, went to the largest mosque in Africa and that kind of stuff. So
Oh wow.
it was quite interesting. But it's a good way of sort of just getting acclimatized. It's a little less stressy. But I mean, let's face it, people have time and budget constraints that may not always allow it. Um, that's another thing when you're on the plane. I mean, the amount of things, I mean, people do to get over jet lag or there's whole programs to sort of, they give you, I saw somebody lately with an app that started telling you when to go to bed half an hour early every day to sort of, I mean, let's face it, the fact is travel is jet lag. You will get there, you will be tired, you will be out of sync. And know that. No, just accept that that day
Right.
that is going to be more difficult. If you can get an extra day in just to get a bit more rested, you know, and you will be fine. You'll have a great time. And
Yeah.
funny enough, by the time you've adjusted, it's time to go home. You know,
Right.
just the reality of it.
So how long were you in Morocco? Was that a 10-day trip,
But that
12?
tour was, I think that tour was basically 8 days, the
Oh,
actual
okay.
tour. But I went in like one day early. because, well, I mean, I have my own website and I do my Facebook posts all the time. So I like to have a little time to go and take pictures on my own before I start getting involved with a group or work, basically. I mean, when I'm doing tours in Europe where I'm doing the full time, like my real work, if you want to look at it that way,
Yeah.
then I know what I'm doing. I can take my pictures and do my videos even on the fly in between things because I just know exactly. But when you're doing your own trips in some place that you don't know so well, I'd rather have a bit more time to see what I can take and what, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What tips do you have for travelers to think about as far as safety? And I know that's part of a big reason why people as well sign up
Yeah,
for.
exactly. I mean, it's a more safe thing to go on a tour. Um, I mean, pickpockets are everywhere. That's just things. So, I mean, money belts, those things that hang around your back. I tend to be more a money belt sort of person. I can't stand stuff hanging around my neck. So, but I mean, that's totally up to you. But a money belt is a good thing to have. Copies of your passport is always good. Um, be aware that pickpockets do not all look like gypsies. I mean, I will never forget. I had a group there was a travel agent. They got on a tram in Prague with me, like a normal tram. And one of the tourists said, "Oh, we're safe. There's no gypsies." And I'm like, "Trust me, pickpockets are look like you and me.
Right.
They're probably right beside you right now." So in that sense, pickpockets are around. Other things, I mean, let's face it, when it comes down to dangers in the sense of war or I know attacks or whatever else, most of these companies, or should I say the more reputable ones, they cancel. That's
Yes.
one of the things I will say is make sure that if it's a more expensive trip, it's a more involved trip, get the travel insurance. You know, they will not take you into a war zone just because you booked a holiday on Friday. You're not flying
Right.
off to, I don't know, Tel Aviv in the middle of it, in the middle of trouble, you know.
No.
And that was always my problem personally with going to Israel. I always wanted to go to Israel and
Oh.
see the Holy Land and that kind of stuff. But every time I went to plan a trip, there was some, I don't know, whatever going on.
Yeah.
And so in the end, I literally decided, okay, book the trip, get the insurance, and if it goes ahead, I'll see everything. And if it doesn't go ahead, it'll be canceled and I get a refund. And that's literally how I did it. And, funnily enough, the trip went ahead, I had a great time. A week later, there was trouble again, but I still got to see all the sites I wanted to see and do. And with the big reputable companies, that is just the case. They will not take tourists into danger zone. If it's been warned by the US State Department,
Right.
they won't be taking you there.
Right.
And they're usually very good about refunds and that kind of stuff as well, anyway. So that's one of the things. So I wouldn't worry too much about, say, one of the Africa trips. I don't remember if you remember the Ebola outbreak in Africa
Oh,
a couple of
yes.
years. I was taking a group to South Africa from somewhere in Pennsylvania. And I got so many calls about Ebola, which is up in northeastern Africa. And I'm like, you do know that you are geographically closer to that place than you are when you're in South Africa, So,
Right.
but and that is taken into account by the tour companies. I mean, if there was a health scare or some kind of thing like that, they would immediately do something to get you home or get you safe, one way or the other. I think that's about it, really. I mean, take the usual precautions. Don't have a wad of money in one hand and a passport in the other, wandering down a dark alley, shouting, "I'm a tourist."
Right.
Take the same precautions you would in any large city in the United States, you shouldn't have any problem. I mean, in fact, most people will be less safe in some parts of some of the cities in the United States than they are in many of the places in Europe, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I tend to agree. And, again, if you're part of a group and you have that free time, check with the front desk. Ask your tour director or because you've been to the city, you might even suggest, like, yeah, maybe avoid that place when it gets dark or stick to these streets or, you'd have some
Yeah,
general
exactly. Yeah.
tips too.
If in doubt, I mean, I rarely, I mean, because of where I am in Central Europe, I rarely end up in cities where I have to warn them about some corner of town. But if there was in the old days in Prague, around the Woodrow Wilson station, there was a whole drug scene going on down there at one stage 20 odd years ago. And so I did tell people, listen, don't go there because a lot of people are train fanatics. They want to take pictures of old stations
Yes.
and rails and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, yeah, if you want to do that, don't do it there. anywhere else, but not there, you know. So, but I mean, and so the guides will help you with that, and they'll tell you that as well. Or nowadays in Budapest, popular are the ruin bars. There's, these
Oh,
rubble bars, which are fine, and take it with a grain of salt. I mean, a lot of tourists, especially a lot of young backpackers, love these things, and they're all over social media, and they're all over, you know. But they are basically illegal drinking establishments built in ruined buildings that may fall on your head. So, be aware.
yeah,
Bring a hard hat if you're going out for a drink. Um, or should I say, in my cases, when I'm on the bus, I tell them if you're going there, it's on your own responsibility.
yeah,
I don't want to say don't go, but at the same time, I have to take care of the company on the other hand. So there are certain bits, but it's not very often.
yeah. That's true. I think there are parts of the United States, though, that they're actually more dangerous in a sense than.
Yeah, there's been parts where I got pulled over going into Baltimore once because I was told I was by a police officer doing me a huge favor. I
Oh,
didn't realize as a foreigner driving in, I was driving into the wrong part of Baltimore that she figured I'd be dead in 5 minutes if I kept going. So, like, thank you, ma'am.
yeah,
Couldn't quite
thank
figure out
you.
what pulled me over. Yeah, I was out by a block or two and heading for the wrong part of town, apparently. And maybe it's changed. That's a lifetime ago as well. That was when I was doing early presentations, running around the States doing presentations for different companies.
Well, I'm not
So,
sure. Some places I don't think have. I mean, Chicago, I know when it was broad daylight and I was kind of confused on the train signs, and a woman rushed across the platform and she's like, "Where are you going?" And I told her, and she's like, "No, you need to get," she kind of
yeah,
led me.
exactly.
Don't get on that train. I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay, thank you." So, yeah, yeah, it's like, but again, that's that balance of listening to locals,
yeah,
trusting your.
local knowledge and that kind of stuff. But I mean, that you can have that anywhere. I'm not saying it's an American phenomenon, but I mean, you're just as likely to have a problem going into a strange American city if you don't know it as you are going into Paris. You
Yeah.
know, so you might as well, if with a guide, at least you have somebody who tells you where to go and what to do and how it works. Even the public transport, often enough. You know.
So you've been taking a lot of pictures. Are you just taking pictures with your phone now? Or you still carry a
But this is
camera?
where my problem started. I went to the last Serengeti trip. I was meant to be grabbing my camera's in Ireland. Uh,
Oh,
I have it at home in Ireland. But of course, because of the way things worked out, I couldn't make it back to Ireland to pick up the camera before I went and took the group to Africa. So I ended up in Africa with only my iPhone to take pictures of all of these animals.
right, right. The wildlife and the.
So I created my own photo challenge, basically. So I literally took the iPhone and I drove it to the edge of insanity trying to take the pictures. And I have to admit, I was quite surprised at how many really good pictures I got, and in particular videos.
Yes.
Um, um, so it is quite possible to do. Okay, you're not going to do a telephoto shot of a tiger or a lion in the eye, looking it right in the face with with an iPhone. But at the same time, I have some amazing videos of pretty much the same thing, from a slightly more bigger distance. But no, it's quite amazing what you could do with an iPhone. It wasn't the same as having a telephoto, the big whole
Right,
thing.
right.
I wasn't disappointed. It was actually quite
See,
nice. So now I do use my iPhone more for taking pictures, especially when I'm working, because I don't want to drag around the whole camera kit. When I'm on my own and I'm going to areas where I know I want to take a lot of pictures, then I'll take the whole kit with me if I can. Um,
so which
but yeah.
version of the iPhone do you have, can I ask?
What I think it was a 14 I had. I've just upgraded. I had that 2 year. I don't know how that works in the States, but every 2 years here, when your contract's up, you can upgrade to the next one. You
Oh,
have to pay
nice.
for. So I've just gotten a new 16, I think it is.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah. Well, given my roaming fees, they better. I probably pay three phones every year just in telephone and roaming fees.
Oh, what would you? Yeah.
Oh no, don't even go there, one way or the other.
Oh, that's fabulous. Yeah, the iPhone is a really actually a good, and it's nice that it's so portable. I mean, it's small, you can just have it or, with you and
Yeah. No, I mean, for taking some decent pictures. I mean, like I said, if you want to make a A documentary, it's not the thing. But I mean, for taking snapshots and holiday shots, and even I have to say quite challenging shots, I've had a good time with it. There are other camera brands, like, or should I say phone brands like Samsung or something. I have friends they use the camera there. They're even better for taking
Oh,
pictures with a phone. My only problem is that I don't like any of these Android systems. I like my Apple stuff because it's very predictable. You know,
right.
last thing I want to do is start thinking about how my phone works.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I just want to make a call.
Yeah, I just want to, or take some pictures. I just want to
Exactly, exactly.
hit the right button and get the
Check
picture
my
while it's
mail.
there. Yeah,
That's it. Leave
while
me
it's
alone with the rest of it.
while it's happening.
I don't need to
So,
know where the lights are over me right now.
so what kind of camera is your regular camera when you do have it with you?
I have a Canon.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah. With a Oh, the other one, my favorite one is actually an Olympus.
Oh,
Um,
really?
it's a little Olympus, and it does like the half size. So you can get the same as one of those big telephoto lens,
Right,
but the lens is only that size, so it's easier for traveling with and taking pictures with that way. That one I've always enjoyed. Um, I don't know the brands. It's been years since I even bought them. I mean, I just have the stuff there. It's digital. It does really beautiful pictures, and I've used it for years. The lenses, of course, are where the money goes. The
right.
camera's all not so expensive. The lenses are the. But I've had a good set of lenses for a couple of years now, and I've used it all the time.
Nice. Well, Peter, what's the next destination that you're headed off to?
But like I said, well, I'm actually off to Athens now for a couple of days. I'm going to land in the strike, apparently.
Oh,
So there's an air traffic controller strike on the 28th, which is when I'm meant to be flying home. So I'm going to have an extra day in Athens. I'll go and see, I don't know, a Greek temple somewhere. And yeah, it's a business meeting with some of the tour companies. Just they're sorting stuff out. And then after that, like I said, I'm preparing for that Japan trip,
oh, that's
taking the group
right.
down there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a
So
bit of
you
fun.
might
What are
actually
you up to
hit,
next?
you might hit cherry blossom season then, right? Maybe?
That's, as far as I remember, was part of the plan. We shall see how it works out with the reality. Nowadays, the weather's playing so crazy all over the place. I'll take what I'm given, you know. But I'm hoping that it'll work out. But I'm looking forward to Fukushima, to looking at the, Mount
Yes.
Fuji. I don't know. Then there's the bullet train. I'm going down to Hiroshima and taking pictures down there. Um, Kyoto, Tokyo. A lot of, it's the top 10, as it were, for Japan sort of thing. Like a lot of these tours are hit all the
Right.
highlights. Try and see if I can find a monkey in a hot bath somewhere on a cold mountain. That kind of thing. But it'll be a bit of fun one either. For me, it's been Japan is one of those places that I've always wanted to go to, but it's never quite worked out. And it probably will be the only time I ever go there. It's just there is a group that wanted to go and they wanted somebody to lead, sort of, and be an escort. I'm not a guide then, I'm just an escort on a bus and just the emergency brake, as it were,
Right.
just in case you need something. But fair enough, I'm in, you know.
Yeah, that should be fabulous. So if people want to read your blog, follow your pictures and your
Well, I have the blog, which is
travels.
peterontour.com. Peter with an I, so it's Pieter on tour.com. And on that, I have a lot of articles about the place I go. It's actually supplementary information for my tours. So it covers a lot of places that I go. I'm still adding to it. Um, not I'm not in it for the notoriety. I fill it up as I go along. So I'm working now on Norway and on Japan,
Oh,
and I'll do a
wow.
couple of posts like a top, hints and tips for first time travelers to Japan. I'll be there, or I'm going to be taking the tour up to Norway, so I'm going to breath out on a bit of the Viking history and that kind of stuff. Just give it because let's face it, on a bus, you've been on a bus with me. I can
Yes.
tell you down to a little bit of history here and there, usually a reasonable amount. For most people, it's enough. But for some people, they could read on. And so there's extra information. That's stuff that I can't explain on the bus. It's all on that website. So, I mean, I don't know if you went to Berlin, Unter Linden is part of the city tour. But on my website, I can go through every building on Unter Linden and tell you all about it. Show you you'll see a little movie of what the street looked like in 1945 and that kind of thing. So it's just extra to the tour, you know.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, because sometimes I know for myself when you're trying to fit as much as you can, you have limited time, as we all know, and you're hitting several cities, it starts to kind of overlap. And it's not until you kind of get home that you can kind of digest
Yeah.
it, so to speak.
Yeah, and hopefully that way also, I mean, let's face it, it helps people put it all together afterwards, you know. Or if they want to go back and check what was that, usually there was at least the main topic, like in Budapest, about the castle district and the history of the castle district and that kind of stuff I have on the website. You couldn't, I mean, I can tell some of those stories, but I can't tell all of those stories, and then they're all there for those people who are interested. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Or, I mean, they can follow me on Facebook, Pieter Reynolds. It's easy to find, Pieter. I'm the only, I think there's like three of us. If you search for Pieter Reynolds, Reynolds, there'll be like three of us on the whole thing. You'll figure out my picture quite easily.
right,
Uh,
right.
just follow me. I had to switch it over to a professional one, not because I'm professional, but because so many people were asking me for friend.
Oh,
But friend,
yes.
like when it's private, it's all friend. These are total strangers. I don't know them at all, but they're like, "Can I friend you?" And in the past, I didn't really mind that, but it was getting a bit silly. They're total strangers from other parts of the world, and just so I switch it over to professional mode so you can follow me.
Right,
And if I
yes.
know you, you can friend me, like you're my friend on
Right,
Facebook.
yeah.
But um, but at least that way people can keep track and see things and see some of
Yeah,
my pictures and whatever else without me having to personally be a friend of theirs. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
you can
And
always
that's
follow me.
really nice. So you are occasionally you put together then tours for friends and people that request it too as well.
Yeah, on occasion, but I mean that is hard. I mean, I'm not saying I will never say no, but you know, you can, like I said, if you want to contact me, Facebook is probably the easiest way to contact me. I even say that on the bus through the messenger stuff. Um, or LinkedIn, I use occasionally, but at least I'll get an email sort of saying from LinkedIn somebody's looking for me. Um, but yeah, I do tours and put tours together for people, and I have done tours for people in the past. But like I said, I mean, I literally just gave out a year's worth of allocations and they're full. So I mean, I'm not saying no, but
Right.
contact me early.
Exactly. Plan ahead. You got to start planning
Exactly.
ahead.
Exactly.
Find
You could
find
get
those
lucky and find the 1 week where I'm doing nothing, but I'm almost betting you it won't be.
right, exactly. Well, it's been such a joy to connect again with you, Peter, and follow your
No, it's
journeys.
good to see you too, and hope you're doing well. I mean, enjoy your travels and have a great time spreading the good news of traveling.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'll have to have you back because I'm excited to hear about Japan because I've
Oh yeah, okay, wait. I have
never
no problem doing this again. I mean, I'm surprised at how long we managed to keep talking.
I know. Well, Japan, like you said, is just a place that
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
long,
yeah,
but
I'm
for a
happy to
lot
tell
of
you
us,
all
I
about
think there's that language difference. Everything's so different. So I'll be
everything. The
excited to hear
food is
about it.
the whole thing's going to be different. I'm going to be twice the size of anybody in the area, according unless they're basketball players, I've been told. Other than that, yeah, I mean, feel free to reach out. We'll talk again, and maybe I can send you some photos and stuff you can throw into your or videos you can throw into
Yes.
your news. And yeah, that's about it. You have a good time.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.